Hello, good evening and welcome to an ArsenalfanTV podcast special. On tonight's show we'll be discussing the safe standing debate. It's a topic that's on the front of everyone's lips and it's at the forefront of football's focus. Over the years, it's fair to say there's been a shift in fans' attitude towards the reintroduction of standing at top level football grounds in the UK. Recently, Bristol City's John Darch of the Safe Standing Roadshow has developed a rail seating stand which is going to be implemented at Bristol City's Ashton Gate and piloted at Gloucester Rugby's games for next season. The move has seen the Football League announce it's open to listening to the advantages of rail seating, and if approved would become the most significant shift in English football stadia since the 1989 Spectator Act was introduced. Joining me on the podcast tonight, we've got a number of special guests. I have Michael Brunswick from the Football Supporters Federation. Good evening, Michael.
Hello, it's Michael Brunskill, but I'll let you off. How are you doing?
We've got Tim Payton from AST. Good evening, Tim.
Hello there.
Right, we've got Robbie from ArsenalfanTV.
How you doing?
All right, and Akhil.
Hiya.
Good stuff. And hopefully we'll have Marc from Borussia Dortmund, but at the moment we're not too sure how likely that is. But anyway, we'll kick off. I want to start with you, Michael. As a Football Supporters Federation spokesman, you've been quite involved with Bristol City and their rail seating plan. Can you give us any more about it? Where are we now with rail seating at Bristol City?
Yeah, well, what Bristol City have done is really interesting. Actually, like you say, they've worked with John Darch from the Safe Standing Roadshow, who the Football Supporters Federation works closely with John and supports what he's doing with the Roadshow. And what they have done is said, look, at present, we might not be allowed to have rail seats at matches at our first team games, but we think they're a really viable option. Because the ridiculousness of the law, we're allowed to have them in rugby league games, and they're going to have rugby games at Bristol's ground soon, Bristol City's ground soon. So we're going to install a sort of trial seat area almost. You know, there's about 100 and odd seats, and they could potentially use it for rugby games. I think they can maybe use it for reserve games as well. I'm not 100% sure about that. But basically, what they're saying is we're big advocates of it. We're going to install it so we can show people, because with rail seats, picture paints 1,000 words, and once you really get on there and feel what it's all about, you see that you can have safe standing, you know. And back in February the 11th, I think it was, they had a day where they invited press, media, executives along to see what it was all about, you know, and I think it was very popular, and a lot of people's minds have been changed after seeing it stand and it's seen the potential for these areas. Basic thing is, any listeners who aren't sure about this, I just encourage them to Google rail seats. Just have a look. Like I say, picture paints 1,000 words. Safe standing can be done in this country. And I think well played, Bristol City.
Indeed. Can I ask, what will safe standing do to improve the atmosphere at grounds?
Well, it's interesting you pick up on atmosphere, because that is the primary reason why people tell us that like standing. Safe standing to be introduced. Personally speaking, I just think when I'm at a game and you get singing, you're getting into it, it's almost automatic. Someone who's been going to football for years gets it, you know, you just automatically stand up as soon as you start singing, don't you? It's almost a bit of a cliche, but if you're in a church, when they sing, you stand up. When you're in a game, when you sing, it's quite natural to stand up. And I think we're getting to a point now where you just need to look around Premier League games and Championship games, and there's like thousands upon thousands of people standing in seated areas, and it's ridiculous to pretend it's not happening. So let's bring in a system that can help do that a little easier, you know, because personally speaking, I'm like 6'5", and I'm a Sunderland fan, as you guess from the accent. I'm not from London, I'm not an Arsenal fan, I'm a Sunderland fan. And if I stand at the Stadium of Light, basically I'd prefer to stand at games. But if I stand there, obviously I'm a tall guy, 6'5", and there's a chance I could go over the seat in front, you know. But if you get real seats there will be no chance of that happening, because you've got the barrier in front every row or every other row. It would stop people falling over seats, and it also stops any form of progressive crowd collapse, which is obviously what people are worried about in terms of safety issues on a grand scale. You know, you would not get Hillsborough. We're not asking for like a return to fences and crumbling stadium and appalling architecture and all this sort of stuff that led to the Hillsborough disaster. We're talking about new, modern, safe standing areas, new technology that's never been used in Britain. And like, you're going to have Marc on the show later from Germany. Hopefully he'll be able to explain a bit more about it too. But I just think it's a no-brainer, and we're going in the right direction.
Okay. I want to ask, the Football League have said they're open to listening to Bristol City's idea or campaign. How did that come about? I mean, I was always of the thinking that the Football League or the Federation, you know, the FA were dead against it. That's their stance, and there's no budging on it. How did they get to that? How did Bristol City get to the position where the Football League will actually give their ear to this campaign?
Well, the Football League have actually went beyond that now. The Football League, at the end of the day, someone like the Football League, I mean, it's a democratic organisation effectively, and if enough of the clubs vote that we think safe standing is a viable option and a good thing, then they can look into that, you know. And what's happened is that over the years, the Football Supporters Federation's campaign over the last few years has really gathered a lot of momentum and support from clubs who see what a sensible option it is. And eventually, I think it was the start of last year at the AGM, they voted to explore it, so to look into it. And earlier this year, they decided that actually this is a good option, and they've voted that the Football League should lobby the government on the issue. That is to tell the government that we would like to trial safe standing areas and real seats in the Championship, or League One or League Two, come to that. And that's a big step forward, because for a lot of years, the government at first said fans don't want standing, and that's been proven to be not true, you know, endless surveys show that. And then they started arguing, oh, well, the football industry doesn't want it. Now, all of a sudden, you've got the Football League, who represents 72 clubs, saying, well, hang on, we would actually like to trial safe standing areas and real seats in particular. And I think that's a massive step for us, and the next step is obviously to try and win the Premier League over. Richard Scudamore, the Premier League chief executive, is on record as saying he opposes safe standing. But here, the Premier League is a democratic body as well, and if you get 14 of the 20 clubs to vote for it, it becomes policy. So that's the way we've got to work. The Football Supporters Federation has 6 clubs who officially back the safe standing campaign, and I think there's a lot more clubs wavering. So we're heading in the right direction there. Arsenal are one of those wavering, you know, even Gazidis has said he's open to it. So, like, so the Black Scarf movement did a survey, and hopefully even Gazidis takes note of that, and if Arsenal fans lobby and tell Arsenal what they want, you know, when it comes to winning a Premier League vote, maybe Arsenal will put their hands up and say, yeah, we want it.
Mm-hmm. I want to bring in Tim first of all, then I'll go to Robbie. Tim, Michael says that you know, the AST has been, or even Gazidis is open to it. You and Akhil have both spoken to Ivan Gazidis about safe standing. What kind of questions have you put to him, and what's his response been on this?
Historically and publicly, the Arsenal view is supportive without being dynamic. By that I mean, when asked questions about it, they've said that they would have no problems with it being allowed, but that it's an issue for government. Arsene Wenger has also expressed his support for it in the past, and I think used to go to games and stand and watch, you know, when you're talking 30, 40 years ago. What we need to do now is to get our Arsenal, as Michael said, to translate words into action. And I think there's 2 things. One, put their hand up around the Premier League table when the vote comes, but also just join clubs like Aston Villa in the Premier League, like even Manchester United, who I think are a little bit advanced than us. And I know that West Ham, another club looking to convert the Olympic Stadium, I think they'll look at this. We need Arsenal to say, yes, government, come on, let's have a trial. Let's see what's going on at Bristol City. Let fans have a choice. But we still have a little bit more to do as fans to persuade Ivan and Arsenal to really wholeheartedly back this campaign rather than just show general interest.
Sure. Axe?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, when we spoke to Ivan, I mean, I went more from the sort of fan point of view for the atmosphere, as you and, Michael mentioned earlier. I mean, a better atmosphere, more noise, more support. Ultimately, you've got a better chance of winning football matches, which is obviously what this is all about. So we talked about it from that sort of point of view. I remember mentioning that when we go to away games, we're pretty much standing anyway. So I mean, generally when people come to the Emirates, and if you're an away team, you're standing anyway. So why not make it safer? I mean, there's an argument that it would actually be safer to have a safe standing and have it all done safely than people standing on seats. I mean, when we go away from home and we score a goal and, we're standing where seats are, I mean, you do see people fall over and go over the seats, and it can be quite carnage. So, that's the angle we took, and as Tim said, I mean, Ivan certainly supported it and said that Arsenal supports it, without maybe actively doing anything. And I mean, as Tim said as well, Arsenal's on record, because I mean, he loves the German model of football. He just loves Germany generally. So I think that was the example he gave. I think he gave Dortmund as the example.
Robbie, I want to ask you, you interview fans after games, during games, before games. You're at the grounds. I know standing in the atmosphere is very passionate. It's a very passionate topic of yours. What do you make of this? I mean, do you see it moving forward?
Well, I hope so. And like those guys were saying, the really crazy thing about it is if you go to an away game, well, you go away with Arsenal, every single fan is standing up. Everyone. Right? If you look at teams when they come to the Emirates, the away team, that is, they're all standing up. It causes a lot of argument sometimes with the stewards, because the Arsenal fans will want to be standing up and they're told to sit down. But the away fans, it's almost as if there's like an amnesty on away fans, and they always stand up. And that's why the away fans at most grounds create the best atmosphere, because they're standing up and, they can create a good atmosphere. And so, to me, they've got to bring this safe standing in. We know the reasons why it hasn't come in, because it is very political, and we all remember what happened at Hillsborough, and it was terrible, and we don't want to go back to that. But this new form of safe standing that is available definitely needs to be looked at. And I just think it's probably going to be, I don't know how long it will take, but it's going to be a matter of time. Probably after the whole Hillsborough thing is finished, maybe we may see moves on that, but until that's all resolved with, what the police done, etc., probably nothing's going to happen until that's resolved, because it's just so political. I mean, which one of those parties, Conservative or Labour, are going to go and try and push that through when the whole Hillsborough matter is still kind of unresolved? But to me, we do need safe standing at grounds, and atmosphere at grounds. Fans complain about it every week. That the atmosphere is not as good because, if you sat down, just like the first gentleman was saying, when you're sitting down, you're not going to make as much noise. You stand up, like you said, in church. You do stand up to sing or stand up to clap. So, yeah, safe standing is definitely the way forward.
Robbie made a point that it's very politicised at the moment, or it's always been politicised. It goes hand in hand. If I'm right, the Hillsborough Family Support Group, is there a public inquest, another inquest going on at the moment, or about to start, Michael? Yeah. About is that right?
It's due to start. I believe it's on the 31st of March. The inquest is starting. So obviously, as said, I think during that time period, publicly, I don't think any political parties are really going to grasp that nettle, But that's not to say that fans during that time still can't make their voices heard at their individual clubs, The Football Supporters Federation has enormous respect for what the Hillsborough families have achieved in terms of seeking justice. And they've went through an awful lot, but it does come down to the fact that Hillsborough itself, we still don't believe was caused by stand. It was caused by fences. It was caused by the stadium not having a safety certificate. It was caused by the architecture at the time, appalling policing. But there's an argument to say that at the time politicians were looking for a lot of things to cover up on what went on there. And one of the things that they did try to use was to try and shift the blame onto standing rather than the real reasons. And I think Liverpool fans who go to games, a lot of Liverpool fans who go to games, do understand that, well, they themselves stand at away games. The Cop in certain blocks stands. The Cop on European nights is well known for standing. I think Liverpool fans get why it's an important issue, match-going Liverpool fans. And I think that while during that time, like you say, bang on, I don't think any political parties are going to grasp that now. I still think there's things that individual club fans at their clubs can do if they support standing.
Okay, I'm going to read some comments from Marc Aspinall, chair of the HFSG group, and she says, "I don't think you can have any form of standing anyway without pens, cages, fences, or whatever. People have the right to argue for it. It's their opinion. No form of standing should be allowed whatsoever. Since 1989, I have not heard of anyone being injured or anyone dying. Pre-89, I had heard of people being injured and dying. Is there any reason to... I mean, should we be more understanding of the Hillsborough Group's position on this issue? I mean, like you said, Michael, I mean, it was, standing didn't necessarily cause the deaths. It was the fault of the police and local authorities. The Liverpool fans should have probably been at the other end, the bigger, with more allocation of tickets, and the Forest fans should have probably been at that end, and so on and so forth, and the architecture and so on. But should there be more understanding from the wider public, or the wider football public, about, you know, the Hillsborough family's position?
I think, like I say, we've got absolutely tons of respect for what the Hillsborough families went through, and we've actually met with the Hillsborough Family Support Group in the past. But not all, I mean, there's also the Hillsborough Justice Campaign as well, you know, and they themselves, they don't have a position on standing. They think it's a bit of a diversion from the real issues of seeking justice. And I mean, Margaret Aspinall has went through personal things I couldn't imagine. I've got a little daughter, and I couldn't imagine losing a child at a football game. Absolutely horrendous. But there has been disasters since then in standing areas, as the Ellis Park Stadium disaster, which took place in an Allseater stadium in South Africa, where I think 43 people died. Prior to Hillsborough, there was the Bradford Fire disaster, which was in a seated area. Again, sort of scores of people died, horrendous. And I think what you can see here is that there's a pattern emerges that people die in these stadium disasters when there's not enough attention paid to safety, there's not enough respect shown to fans. And it doesn't, whether that happens in a standing or a seated area, you know, I don't think the seats themselves or stand facilities are the actual reason. It's the crowd management around that. And I think the simple fact is, fans do stand at games, you know. All we're saying isn't safe standing on rail seats a better option, a safer option than what's on show at the minute in top flight games and championship games. Also in the lower leagues, they still have standing areas, you know, and if the government truly believed it was dangerous, do you think they'd allow them to be open? I think they'd be closed down. In reality, the government statistics don't show any injury differential between seated or standing areas.
Cool. Tim, I want to bring you in. You liaise quite a lot with fan groups sport groups from other clubs. How many are in favour in the top flight? I mean, what are you doing as a collective, or is there anything you're doing as a collective to sort of push the case forward for the reintroduction of standing at football grounds?
I would be fairly confident in saying that every supporters group that I've come across is in favour of safe standing, of the choice, of the improvement in atmosphere, and of reintroducing that at football grounds, with the obvious issues that you have when you go to Merseyside, although even then you'll meet many Liverpool fans who do think that safe standing is the right way to go. I think if I just pick up on that theme, what Michael was saying briefly, perhaps compare it, to aeroplanes or trains. We've seen aeroplanes crash, train accidents that are terrible. What you do after an incident like that is you don't necessarily say, we ban this, we can't do it. You say, we double our efforts to make it safer. And that, I think, is what safe standing is about. It's redoubling efforts to think of how to do terracing in a safer way. And you're not talking about the huge cops of the old days. You're talking about well-built, well-designed, smaller areas with rails, with seating that are watched by CCTV, that don't have fences at the front. It's a totally different proposition. And I understand that, where the position comes from, that people have been through the grief of something like Hillsborough, but you have to look at it, I think, more widely and look at it improving the safety. And on your main question, I think the SFF, Michael's representing, are doing a fantastic job of coalescing this, as are actually many of the professional football clubs. I think, it's the professional clubs that have campaigned to change the league position, listening to their fans, and that's a movement that's happening in the Premier League. What we really need is the politicians to catch up with the mood of fans, the mood of clubs, the mood in the game. Probably we do have to wait for the Hillsborough inquest to run its course and kind of see that as a process that's been completed and quite rightly justice secured. And then I think it really is time for the politicians to wake up. Because after all, as Michael said, I'll go to Cheltenham next week for the races and stand on a huge terrace there. You're either safe or not safe. It's time for the politicians to wake up.
So, Robbie, you were down at Liverpool. You've seen the memorial. I imagine you've spoken to Liverpool fans. What's their take on it?
I mean, first of all, the memorial was really, really touching. To see how many fans as well was passed away. I mean, really does bring it home to you. And a lot of Liverpool fans really drawn to it as well. But I mean, once the game started, we all know the result. They absolutely slaughtered us. But loads of their fans were standing up for most of the game, and I think all fans realised that it's only a matter of time. That's my opinion. I think it's only a matter of time that we're going to have safe standing, because so many fans stand up at games. And I don't know, I just get the feeling that it may be, first of all, as the guys have all alluded to, the political process is going to have to run its course. There's still families out there that lost their loved ones that are still waiting on answers and deserve answers. And I think that once that's resolved, and also the fact that the ticket prices are going up so much at games nowadays that it's pricing out particularly the younger fan. A lot of grounds may turn to that safe standing areas because they'll be able to possibly offer it cheaper. And that may drive it, and that's where we may see it starting to come in at more grounds.
Arsenal, try and persuade Dan Kroenke to do anything they can't charge as much for. Oh, God.
But he makes a good point, though, doesn't he? I mean,
what I'm saying, Tim, is that it may be a way out for them to sort of, offer, if they could, say, I don't know, add a additional 10,000 to the capacity or 5,000 to the capacity by making it safe standing, and they could offer it that cheaper without, having to do a lot. So, I don't know, it may be a way out for teams like Arsenal's, to add safe standing. It is hard with some of these owners, and it is going to be a thing that's going to be driven by the fans.
I think Robbie makes a good point, Tim and Michael, guys. Having standing areas, historically, cheaper tickets. Do you think that's a way of sort of the clubs can reintegrate fans, or disillusioned fans, or the fans that have been cut off by the high ticket prices? I'm going to start with you, Tim. What do you think to that?
Well, I totally agree with the sentiment, although I think, unfortunately, the way the game is owned and run now, that is a message that isn't going to be as well received by the powers that be as the one about choice and improving the atmosphere and, practicality and so on. Those are the things that probably get through to them more, because they are so focused on their bottom line revenue now. it should be put to them as a point. But I think that, and I don't know, I'd be interested in Michael's view here, but I think isn't there a view in a way of not scaring some of the clubs off by talking about falling ticket revenue, but talking about improving atmosphere, making it look good for the TV games that they sell, making it easier to steward because you've got the choice of stand or sit. And whereas I'd love to see it lead to cheaper seats, I'm not sure that from the owner perspective it's the message that's going to drive this campaign as much as choice and atmosphere. But I'd be interested if Michael talks to a lot more clubs and fans about this and what he thinks.
Yeah, I think Tim's pretty much nailed it there. I think it is part of the picture, it's part of the argument, and obviously if a club's wavering, to be able to say to them, oh well, actually you could increase revenue potentially and possibly decrease prices if they're open to that argument, great, you know. But I think like Tim says, I think the main arguments have to be around the positives of increased atmosphere and reducing some of the conflict that matchgoers obviously see between stewards trying to get fans to sit down and all this. But I think there's a place for this argument around prices. I think potentially, and it's all theoretical and it varies from ground to ground, but the government has something called the Green Guide, which limits how many people can be in a stand, and they allow it to go up to 1.8 standing compared to sitting. So for every one sitting fan in some areas you can have 1.8 standing fans. Now it's not always as simple as that, but it just goes to show that you can increase capacity, which would potentially allow clubs to increase capacity, reduce ticket prices, but also increase revenue. But like Tim says, I think it's an interesting, it's a nuanced argument, and it's something for people who are into it to discuss with clubs. But I think the driving force for it has to be around atmosphere and just looking at the numbers of people standing up at stadiums, you know. Maybe it's of interest for all. Sorry.
I was just going to say, Michael, don't you think that most of the people that probably would go in the standing areas, if they brought them in, would be the younger fan? I mean, the older fan's going to want to sit down, I suppose. So it would be a lot of the, you know, you'd be able to attract a lot of the new young fans in who'd be willing to stand up the whole game.
Well, I think that's interesting. I think certainly younger fans do like to stand. I mean, when I started going to games at Sunderland, we were still at Roker Park in the Fulwell end. I stood there as a teenager. It was brilliant. But also, I'm slightly wary of just saying, oh, it's just younger fans who want to stand, because actually what our surveys tell us is that a whole range of fans would quite like to stand, actually, and not just like young male fans, but also the vast majority of female fans prefer the choice to sit or stand. And a lot of those fans, I think it's about 1 in 3 that we polled, were actually saying they would prefer to stand at a lot of games if they had the option. And I think sometimes the government tries to portray it that football is now dead diverse because we've got Allseater stadiums, but I think that's a bit patronising, you know. I think football is now diverse just because more people are interested in all that. But I think like women, younger, older fans all like to stand if given the option, you know, and I think option's the key word there as well. No one's forcing standing areas on anyone. I think there should be seating for people who want to seat, but should be standing for people who want to stand too.
I think also, I mean, when I follow Arsenal away from home, I mean, I've never really seen people complaining about standing. So if you think of 3,000 Arsenal fans, or any away fans for that matter, standing up, it's obviously you've got women, you've got men, you've got old, you've got young, you've got short, you've got tall. And by the way, Michael, I would hate to be standing behind you if you're 6 plus. So I'm glad I'm not a Sunderland fan sitting behind you as a teenager. So yeah, I think you're right in that way. I don't think it is just the younger fans. I think actually there'll be a lot of people that will want to stand. I mean, of course, there'll always be some people who want to sit, perhaps because they're unable to stand. I don't think we should obviously forget that. We also have obviously a big disabled community as well when we go away from home, so wheelchair spots, etc. So obviously you need to consider everyone, but I think the majority, you know, do want to stand. I mean, it's interesting because at Arsenal we've been talking about a singing section a lot as well. So you would think, you know, a singing section could be incorporated with safe standing if it ever happens. But it seems like there's a little bit of a fear from clubs. I don't think clubs want to particularly be the first team to do it. I think they all support it, but they don't want to lead. And that's probably because of all the political sort of noise that comes with it. So I think once you sort of get over that, and as you guys have rightly pointed out, once sort of the Hillsborough stuff is over, and I think one or two clubs strongly campaign for it, I think the rest will follow.
Michael, I want to ask why there's this divide between top level clubs and the lower level clubs. Why did the government or the Football League or whoever it was make it that the top two divisions have to be Allseater, and whereas you go to the lower, you go to the League Ones, League Twos, and conference clubs, that policy or that ruling isn't as stringently put to those clubs. Why is that?
Yeah, well, what happened was after the Hillsborough disaster, the government commissioned Lord Taylor to look at the reasons for it and how the game could move forward. And the Taylor report came out. Taylor report recommended Allseater stadiums on the basis that basically football grounds at that time were a mess. The Taylor report didn't pin the blame on Hillsborough and Stan or anything like that, but it did say that, look, the facilities are so shoddy that maybe we should go towards Allseater stadiums. And Taylor himself, I don't think he was particularly a football fan, and what he envisaged was that decades down the line, fans would prefer to sit and watch football like you would in a theatre or something. Now that patently hasn't happened. Many thousands of fans prefer to stand and watch games. Taylor, but I mean, there's been a lot of good consequences from the Taylor report. Obviously, stadiums are a world away from when I started going to games in the late 80s. And so that obviously has been positive. I think in terms of the recommendations, his recommendations for Allseater Stadium, or his rules around it, only apply to the top two leagues, so the Premier League and the Championship. What is now League One and League Two were never actually forced to have Allseater stadiums. Now, what that leads to is a bizarre and, to be honest, ridiculous predicament where a club like, say, Peterborough United, if they're in League One, Peterborough United, their chairman, Bob Sims, thinks standing is great. He has a standing area. He loves it in League One. The fans love it. Away fans love it. That's all great. If Peterborough United go to the Championship, after 3 seasons, they would have to tear down that standing area and change it to all-seated stadiums because the rules say they have to. So what you've got there is, because Peterborough United suddenly have a better team on the pitch, better players, and are playing in the Championship, somehow that makes it less safe for fans to stand and watch. It's just a bizarre situation which has just developed. It's developed because of politics, not because of safety or the realities of it. It's just developed because in the Taylor, I don't know, at the time maybe what was then second and third division teams just couldn't have afforded Allseater or something. But it's just not working, is it? You just need to look around the Premier League and Championship at the minute. It's just not working.
You make a good point about the small clubs. Am I right to say that Yeovil Town, they're at the moment, they're allowed to have standing, but they have, if they do remain in the Championship, they have to change that and build an Allseater stadium. Is that right, or is their ground now Allseater?
What happens is you get a 3-year window. So if you're a club in League One who has a standing area and you get promoted to the Championship, you have 3 years to convert to Allseater. So you can stay in the same stadium, but you have to change the terraces to standing areas after 3 years. But obviously that just means you might have a club who actually the fans, the club, everyone has happily had standing for sort of forever. But just because they happen to have gotten the Championship for a few years, they're going to have to convert to Allseater. And I believe once they've converted to Allseater, even if they're relegated, I'm not sure they're even allowed to convert back. So it's just what was once apparently safe suddenly becomes unsafe forevermore. It's just, the law's a bit of an ass on this, isn't it?
Yeah, you got to feel sorry for a club like Yeovil.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, say a club like Yeovil, I mean, Yeovil might 3-4 years down the line have to have spent a fortune converting to Allseater stadium. It's a costly thing to do. And then they go back down and they're stuck with an Allseater stadium that neither they nor their fans wanted, and it's cost them a boatload of money, and they're stuck with a stadium they don't want. It doesn't do them any good either, does it?
Exactly. Just going back to the rail seating, what John Darch has said it's patently safe. So there's no risk of overcrowding or crushing or anything like that. These tests have been run by all sorts of companies. Has the Premier League or the FA actually come to see these rail seating demonstrations and so on and so forth? I mean, have they been privy? Have they been present at the demonstrations or anything like that? I mean, are they?
Yeah, well, I mean, we had an event in Parliament talking about all this, like, last year in the Premier League, and FA were in attendance. And the Bristol City event, I have to be honest, I wasn't actually there on the day for that launch, so I can't remember off the top of my head if the Premier League or FA were there. But they've certainly sent over delegations to Germany to see what it looks like. So they've seen it in practice there as well. I mean, the Premier League, at least the Premier League have that position, the FA just seem to back off it all together. I know we're saying nothing to do with me, sort of thing, which in some ways, at least with the Premier League, where the FA are almost just haven't, they won't engage in the debate, basically. My understanding is actually that FA policy isn't even against standing areas or safe standing areas, but they just won't stick up for them, basically.
Right, okay. Tim, I would like to ask, where would likely, I mean, if it comes in and it's revised, where would the likely standing areas be in a stadium like the Emirates?
Oh, I think definitely in the lower tier. I think because of the gradient that you'd be looking at to put that in, the upper area would probably be seen as too steep. So I suspect it would be on the lower tier, and probably given a mixture of tradition and the singing section that they have now behind the goal and to where the singing section is. Because let's face it, and this is one of the hypocrisies of this debate, singing sections are in effect unofficial standing areas, aren't they? They're areas where the stewards are told to back off, where people are encouraged to sing. It's actually Michael's point about being in church is such a good one. It's almost impossible to sing sitting down. There is something that brings you to your feet to chant or to sing. So exactly where people stand up now in Arsenal, lower tier, behind the goals, and where the singing section is.
Right, okay.
I think actually a point there that the singing sections that they have are quite, it's blatant euphemism, isn't it? I mean, anyone who goes to games knows singing section means standing, and however, Cardiff City, it's really interesting. Cardiff City have actually said, look, we're going to have a stand area. There's a stand area in the Premier League. Cardiff City have it. It's in a seated area, but they manage it. And they're on the record as saying, look, we know this happens. We know this is a problem. Fair play to them, they've stuck their head above the parapet and they said, we're going to acknowledge it, we're going to manage it, we're not going to pretend it's not happening. But like Tim says, there's loads of clubs use the euphemism singing section, and fans know what it means.
Of course, and I think there's also an important thing here about picking up on what Akhil said about the different types of people that go to a away game and they all stand. But don't forget that there are some people who are kept away from football because they don't have the choice, and they know you've got to stand, particularly at away games. And that's why I think it's so important to talk about standing areas, because if you've got a bad back, if you're elderly, if you're not tall, or if there are other reasons, you might actually want to sit. And what we've got to do, I think, is create grounds that are better for people that need to sit and better for people that want to stand. And by putting them all into the same area and not catering for the different desires and the different needs, you're not helping anybody out, and you would actually broaden the audience at football grounds by doing that, rather than packing everybody into the one-size-fits-all. So I actually think that it would broaden the audience at football grounds, because I know people, particularly away games, who are put off because they don't want to stand all game, but they've got no choice. Let's create standing for the people who want to stand and sitting for the people who need to sit.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah,
that's a great point. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And, I just think that, the time is coming. The time is coming. As I said, I just feel that obviously it's very political at the moment. but the time is coming when because it seems so. It's for everybody who goes to football. It's just so obvious that we need to stand in area.
Yeah, and you know what else
these areas are safe.
You know what else is coming, Robbie, in timing, which I think will be really important? We're only 15 months from a general election, which will allow the inquest to be out the way. But what I would urge every fan to do is raise their voice. You know, go onto the Football Supporters Federation website and see the materials and messages that they've got. Email their MP, sign the petition, join Black Staff Movement or the AFT or some of the fan groups. You know, if you don't say anything or you don't do anything, you won't change anything. Get out there and let the politicians know that if they want your vote as a football fan, they've got to start listening to what you want at a football ground. And I really think that it's May 2015 when we need all football fans to come together and say, you know, we're important, listen to us, earn our vote.
And I think it's a very important. What I found fascinating was the fact that you guys are saying the FA are not interested in it at all.
I think to Bristol. I think they did send someone down there. I think Robert Sullivan was going.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, that may be right. Actually, Robert Sullivan. I mean, the FA themselves, they have a more hands-off approach to it. You know, they just, I don't know. The Premier League and the Football League are at different positions. Who know where they stand on it. The FA, I think back in the day, I don't even think they had a formal policy against standing. And I think at the time when they might even have been against the decision to sort of prevent standing in the top flight, but now they've sort of just went back on that. And so I don't think it's actually been a policy decision. I think it's just a decision that they've chosen to make. But like I say, I wasn't at the Bristol City event, so if Robert Sullivan was there, that's cool, obviously, and they know what's going on,
don't they, Michael? They're actually, you know, from their point of view, they only run one stadium. You know, the league decision on this is going to be the football clubs and the league and the Premier League because that's where the grounds are. It's not to say that the FA can't take a position and take a lead, but you can sort of understand why they're the main bodies.
But I would say they only have one stadium, that's true, but I've also been in that stadium and I've seen 10,000 fans standing for the full game. So you can't pretend it's not happening, you know.
Cool. All right. So we've seen other countries implement safe standing areas to great effect, particularly in Germany. And on that note, I'd like to bring in Marc from Borussia Dortmund. Marc, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello. Nice to join. Nice to be here.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming on, Marc. We've seen, I mean, whenever we talk about safe standing, the German formula is always held up as a shining beacon. We've had delegates from the Premier League and the Football Association go over to Germany to see how it works. And I just want to ask you, as a German fan, how has it worked? I mean, what kind of benefits? How does it benefit the atmosphere in terms of safety? What kind of measures are in place? Have there been any negatives from having safe standing or standing areas in football grounds around Germany?
No, to be honest, there are no negative aspects in that because we never had the discussions about standing areas or terraces because obviously we had Hillsborough, so there was no public discussion about safety and security. And when it comes to the advantages, it's obviously it's much cheaper to have a ticket in a standing area, and we have more young people in these grounds, and obviously that's better for the good atmosphere. And so it's when we compare to England, it's obviously it's louder, it's more flags, people waving flags, and more chanting and singing, and I think it's a better. I think it's a future for football to get young people in the stadiums, and that's obviously it's not. You can't afford a ticket for 45 quid when you're 17 or 18 or 19. So you have to bring them in with cheap tickets, and so when it comes to Dortmund, we pay 220 euro for a season ticket on the South Stand. And obviously that's quite fair price.
That's about one game for me. Actually, 8 games.
Marc, it's Akhil here. Hi, mate. In terms of atmosphere, I mean, obviously, I came to Dortmund with Arsenal earlier this year, and obviously the Champions League is a little bit different with the safe standing and stuff. Do you see a noticeable difference in the atmosphere in sort of league games and maybe Champions League games when obviously there's a difference with the safe standing?
I don't know. I don't see. I think it's hard to compare because Champions League matches the atmosphere now is much better than normal league games or matches. So it's hard to compare. But I don't think it's not a matter of standing or not because everyone is standing. No one is no museums.
Cool. Marc? Hello? Marc?
I think we've lost Marc, haven't we?
Yeah, they might be good in Dortmund, but the Skype lines are a bit dodgy, I think.
Indeed. I'm not sure.
No offense.
Yeah. Are you there? Okay, great. Okay, sorry. We lost you for a moment. Robbie, have you got a question?
Well, you know what? I also went to Dortmund when Arsenal played Dortmund, and there was a great atmosphere in the ground. And I was going to ask Marc: is it across Germany the safe standing? I mean, is it the same at Schalke, the same at Bayern? Does everybody have the safe standing sections?
Except of Berlin, that is traditionally an Allseater stadium because of historical reasons. We have safe standing or terracing in every stadium, but in different numbers of standing tickets or standing areas. We have 27,000 at Dortmund, and Schalke has, I'm not quite sure, I think 12 or 13,000, but also have a good atmosphere. Bayern has not so much, but they now decided to put 2,000 more standing 2,000 or bring 2,000 more standing. I don't know what.
And does that make it so? It's a lot cheaper for the standing areas than it is for when you got to sit down. And you was also making a point, which is I was sort of saying that's what I'd like to see in England because it will bring younger fans into the game. So you definitely see that in Germany that it attracts younger fans because it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, obviously, because when it comes to ticket pricing for a seat, it's not that big difference from England to Germany, but when it comes to standing areas, it's obviously it's much cheaper and more affordable for people who are not so who are students or
and that's the future. That's the future.
Yeah, and you need, because obviously you're not when you're not going to a football ground when you're 20, you won't go when you're 50 or 45, because you have to grow up with that, with the culture, with the love for the game, and I think it's important to keep that in mind. And when you look at England, you have so much older people in the ground, and
the younger ones who can afford it.
Yeah, and.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's a problem for the future, because if the people are 60 or 70 or they are dead, it will be hard to bring new people in. And you can't build a football league only with tourists from Japan.
Very true. I want to bring Tim in. I know you've got to go soon quickly. Tim, just to finally, before you go, in your eyes, how long before you think there will be an reintroduction of safe standing in top flight stadia?
I'm optimistic that in the next 2 to 3 years it will happen at clubs at the top level. you can see the clubs at the forefront, Aston Villa, probably West Ham moving into the Olympic Stadium, Bristol City and others. I think that the trials will be extended and there'll be a way. I think we might have a slightly bigger challenge at Arsenal to persuade them to turn words into action. My final message is thanks for putting this podcast together, guys, and thanks for giving the platform to the subject. Every fan's just got to get involved. Join the FSF, join the AST, sign a petition, write to the club, drop them an email, because we are the game. And if we make our voices heard and if we say what we want, we'll end up with better football facilities for all of us. So I'm optimistic in the next few years with the campaign the FSF has started. We'll see delivery.
Brilliant.
Okay, Michael, you as a representative of FSF, do you share those sentiments, or what kind of timeline would you give it?
Yeah, just echo what Tim said there. First of all, to say to every fan listening to this to make their voice heard to their club, because it's at the end of the day, this is going to go at some point to a decision, say at the Premier League, and it's going to be when our Premier League chief executive is brave enough to put their hand up and say yes to it. And we can make that decision easier for them by lobbying them, by making our voices heard, by really giving it our all, whether that's via phone-ins, emails, everything, Twitter, whatever, just do it. But like Tim says, I think it's impossible to totally say with 100% confidence, but I think we've made so many strides in recent years. I think that a club like Villa, who say, yes, we want to host a trial, I think the local police force was very receptive to that. And I think we've moved so far that I think at some point in the next few years we will get, at the very least, hopefully a trial of a standing area in the top flight. And I think once that does happen, that hopefully the results will be positive. But also, underneath all that, there's also the possibility that Celtic, their chairman has said within the next year he plans to introduce a safe standing into Celtic's ground. All of a sudden you've got a situation where north of the border you've got one of the biggest teams in Britain who's got a safe standing area. How on earth could fans south of the border not look at that and think, well, we want some of that? I think then it becomes a huge issue, you know.
Mm.
Indeed, the Scottish. I mean, they don't. They're not part of the Spectator report, are they, or the Spectator Act? But they took it upon the Scottish Premier League took it upon themselves to ensure that all clubs had safe Allseater Stadium. But now they've relaxed that requirement, and as you say, Celtic have actually put in an application to do that. Do you see a lot more of the clubs north of the border going that route now?
Well, for a lot of them, first of all, just to say the Football Supporters Federation, we represent clubs in England and Wales, so I'm not speaking on behalf of Scottish fans here. It's just my own take on it, you know. But Celtic certainly want to introduce safe standing trials. A lot of the other clubs, I think, might not bother or haven't bothered just because the grounds aren't full and they just let fans stand in seated areas, and it's not as big as an issue because people aren't getting a view block because you can stand more or less anywhere in a lot of those grounds. That's not to disrespect the clubs there, but a lot of them have got big grounds and not many people in there. But I think what you will get is, if Celtic have a safe standing area, how can you have a situation in Britain with one government where Celtic are allowed a safe standing area in a 60,000 seater stadium, but then if Carlisle United, who are only 50, 60 mile away or something, if Carlisle United got into the Championship, they wouldn't be allowed on safety grounds, and yet Celtic are? It would be bizarre. So I think that in itself could actually really highlight the issue among the media and get them to understand as well, because now fans get it, you know. I'm not worried about fans. Fans get it. I think even the Premier League and a lot of executives understand it. I think what they're scared of is these ridiculous headlines that you may get in papers at the start if it is brought back, you know. I'm sick of working for the Football Supporters Federation. I'm sick of seeing a safe standing article highlighted by an argument, by a picture of a fence from the 80s at some ground that just, it doesn't relate to what we're talking about. And I think once Celtic introduce it, a lot of people will start looking at it and understand it as well in the media, and I think that's really important.
Cool. All right, I want to wrap it up now, but before we go, I want to thank Michael Brunskill from the Football Supporters Federation for coming on. I'm very grateful for you to come on and sharing your knowledge on this subject.
My pleasure.
Okay. Also, I want to thank Marc from Borussia Dortmund fans club for coming on at short notice and late in the day for adding your point as well. Thank you for coming on, Marc. I know it's been it was very short notice on my part.
Thanks for hosting me. Bye-bye.
No problem. And I also want to thank Akhil and Robbie from ArsenalfanTV.
Thank you.
Right, great stuff. So, great stuff. So that's been Gunnar Ramble, Arsenal Fan TV podcast special. It's me, Giles, saying thank you for listening and good night.